Hello artists, I am Mr. McCaffrey, and this class is called Introduction to Studio Art. Okay guys, let's go ahead and get started. Remember, we want to always sharpen our pencils at the very beginning. Today we're going to learn about the 4 basic forms. We're going to start with a sphere, which is of course a ball, and in order to draw that, we need to start with a circle. And then, in order to make it 3-dimensional, it needs to have a shadow. And in order to have a shadow, there must be light. So we need to identify the light source so that we know where to draw our shadow. For the first few times we do these kinds of assignments, our light source will always be in the upper right-hand corner. When we're drawing the shadow of a sphere, that shadow is going to be circular. However, it's on the ground, and so it's going to look like an oval and not a sphere. I like to start with 2 dots, and then I connect those 2 dots. One with one curved line that goes down, like a smiley face, and another with a curved line that moves up, like a frowny face. In case you haven't been able to tell so far, value shifts are extremely important in our ability to draw well. And when we are shading stuff in, we have to very carefully transition from all of these different values. So the cast shadow on the ground is going to be the darkest, and it's going to gradually get lighter as it moves away from the object. Then the area of the object that is closest to the light source is going to be the brightest. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of labeling the numbers of the value so that we can generally understand what values are expected to go there. Now, of course, it's time to slowly and carefully shade in our form. I like to go through and shade in everything that's going to be darker than the value number 3 as the value number 3, and then we can slowly build that stuff up with layers. Remember, you can use a wide variety of pencils as well as your eraser. Okay, when we're finished, we should have a clear highlight, the brightest area, shadow, a dark area, and cast shadow, the area that is on the ground. Okay, next up we'll be doing a cube. And a cube, of course, is helpful to us with our abilities to draw dice, or houses, or many of other millions of things. And we're always going to start with a square. Then we're going to draw 3 straight diagonal lines that move in the same direction. And we're going to connect those 3 straight diagonal lines with 1 vertical line and 1 horizontal line, leaving us with a cube. Now again, we cannot have a shadow without a source of light, and our light source is always going to be in the upper right-hand corner. So when we're drawing our shadow for our cube, there's going to be 4 sides to the shadow, which of course makes sense because a square has 4 sides. The first 2 sides are going to be from the bottom of the cube, and then the next 2 sides are going to represent the top of the cube. So we're going to draw similar lines that match up the top and the sides of the cube, and this is going to give us our strong cube shadow. Okay, now it's time to start our shading. And it's important to remember that if we are shading in an area that is going to be dark, we want to start by shading it in kind of in that number 3 middle value, and then we can go back over the top and make it darker. We don't want to immediately start off really dark because then it's really kind of hard to make it smooth. So again, we're going to start off in a middle 3 area and then make things darker by adding layers of graphite. And now we have to think about which sides are going to get the most amount of light. So the side facing us, the square that we drew first, is actually not facing the light, and so it's going to be quite dark. The side on the top of the cube is going to be very light, as well as the side on the right, because again the light is in the upper right hand corner. So both of those sides are going to get more light than the original side of the square that we can currently see. And our next form is a cone. So we're going to start with an upside down letter V, or the top of a triangle. And we're going to close up that letter V with one curved smiley face line. And this is, of course, your basic cone. Again, we add a shadow. Again, our light source is going to be in the upper right-hand corner. And again, we use the light source to understand which direction the shadow moves. As you're watching me shade this one in, I want to take the opportunity to point out that while I am trying my best to make these videos very comprehensive, I am not the only person who has made videos like this. And I am definitely not the best person who has made videos like this. So if you are watching this and you feel like you need some more information, I suggest you take a break and you go to Google and you search some of these things, because there are other people who make videos and they do a really good job at making these videos. The most important thing to remember is to gradually build up values in layers by pressing the pencil harder and harder. We don't want to start out really dark at first. We want to gradually get to our darkest value. Our fourth and final form is a cylinder. A cylinder is, of course, something like a soda can or a telescope. The oval or elliptical shape is the most important part of a cylinder. And again, I think the best way to make an oval or an ellipse is to start with two dots, like this. Then again, you connect those two dots with one smiley face line and one frowny face line. And that gives you an oval, also known as an ellipse, which is what a flat circle looks like when you view it from the side. Again, the very next step is to identify our light source and use that light source to see in which direction our shadow is going to go. Then the top of a cylinder is rounded, so the bottom of the shadow will also be rounded. And now again, we start adding our shadows. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to start out light and work your way towards dark. Erasing something that is too dark is so much harder than darkening something that is too light. So take your time, go slowly, use your finger or a paper towel or a Q-tip or anything else you can think of to smudge those pencil drawings so that their shadows become smooth and clear. Again, when you're done, you should have a highlight, a bright area, a shadow, a dark area, and a cast shadow, which is the shadow of the object cast onto the ground. Okay guys, that's part one. That's the 4 basic forms. Now I'm going to put a worksheet attached to this particular assignment that also talks about how to do this if you're still having trouble. And remember, of course, I'm still here on the Zoom the whole time. So you can always pause these videos, go back to the Zoom, and ask me any questions that you might have. All right, time to start part 2. Okay, turn to a brand new piece of paper in your sketchbook, or if you have a piece of nice drawing paper, please use that. You're going to need to fill up this whole entire piece of paper with all 4 forms and loads of shading. Okay, we're going to start with a horizon line. Again, the horizon line is a line on your paper that indicates where the earth meets the sky. Then we're going to draw all 4 basic forms. And what I hope you're noticing is that all 4 of these basic forms overlap one another, which means they are in front of or behind another one of the shapes. Which also means, of course, we cannot see the entirety of the form every single time. Keeping our light source in the upper right-hand corner, we're going to draw the shadows that have been cast on the ground, also known as a cast shadow. Now it's important to remember that these cast shadows are going to overlap each other as well, so don't forget to include that. Finally, it's time to shade in literally the entirety of this whole entire paper. Naturally, you're going to start with the 4 basic forms, And again, we want to slowly build up our dark areas. We don't want to start out dark too early. We want to start out light and then gradually build up the darker areas. Shadows on the ground are usually going to be considerably darker than anything else, so feel free to press a little bit harder there. And then again, we are going to slowly and carefully work our way through the 4 basic forms until they all have dark, smooth shadows, bright white highlights, and lots of middle gray tones. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to shade in both the ground and the sky. Now the sky is going to be dark towards the top of the paper and light towards the middle of the paper, and the reverse is true for the ground. Okay, that's it. That's all you got to do for the rest of today. Remember that art is not a race. You do not get any points for finishing first. In fact, most people who finish first lose points, because the point of art is to take our time and to do it very carefully. And if it's clear to me that you're rushing, you are not going to get full credit on this assignment.
Does my picture have to look like your picture?
No, definitely not. I want your art to be about you and to look like you.
Can my picture look like your picture?
Yes, of course. I'm an art teacher. You can absolutely copy what I've done.
What if my drawing isn't perfect? What if I'm terrible at art?
Well, no drawing is ever perfect, so we don't have to worry about that. What we do have to worry about is improving on our past performance.
Do I have to take a picture of this when I'm done?
Yes. Every single time you complete an assignment in this class, you must photograph it and turn it in on Google Classroom. Every single time. Whoa! You did it! You finished! All you have to do now is take a picture of your work and turn it in on Google Classroom.